I'm Marcus Smith, and this is Constant Wonder. This month, with Christmas drawing near, join me on a journey called Advent. Constant Wonder is marking this venerable tradition, a calendar of hopeful anticipation, with daily short episodes, a new Advent experience every day through the 25th. Together with special guests, we're seeking out the wonder and awe felt by so many people during this season of hope, reverence, peace, and goodwill. It's December 12th.
All different sorts of colors: purple, gold, green, red, yellow. Sometimes they could be as bright as the full moon. That's very rare, but there are ones that are bright as the brightest star you see in the sky.
That's astronomer Elizabeth Fernandez describing meteor showers that she's witnessed over the years. This December, we'll be treated once again, as we always are this time of year, to the Geminid meteor shower. We're delighted to spend a moment with Elizabeth to find out how best to see this heavenly phenomenon with our own eyes. The Geminids are one of the best showers of the year because they're visible all over the world, and especially in the northern hemisphere. The meteors are bright and plentiful, and consider this an invitation for you to get out and see them for yourself. Before we talk about how to see the show, let's discuss the what. What exactly is a meteor shower, physically speaking?
Why we see them as a shower, why we see a lot of meteors all at once, is because we're actually passing through the trail of a comet or an asteroid. And as we go through it, these little pieces of dust that come off the comet or asteroid are what we're seeing burning up in the sky as meteors.
Now that's spoken like a true scientist who can account for what the phenomenon is. But over the centuries, people have had some quirky ideas. You know, I actually had a great-grandfather who witnessed one of these. It was a historic event.
Oh, yeah?
And he wrote about it. I'll just share a little bit. He says, about November 13th, 1833, my brother and I were returning from a corn shucking at about 11 o'clock at night when I noticed a number of stars falling from the heavens in the southeast direction. We watched them for a few minutes. They increased, got very fast. Well, the way this story ends is he goes to sleep, but gets back up at 2, and then he has to get his whole family up, and then the whole community is watching this thing, and then he says, my neighbors saw it, and some were greatly frightened, saying it was the end of the world. You can imagine that history is full of stories about the skies falling down, not just from little chickens seeing it happen.
Mm-hmm. I mean, can you imagine if you are living in a society that doesn't understand that we actually are in space, that you imagine that the world is our entirety, and then you start seeing something like this happen? What is this? People were wondering maybe it's a meteorological event, something to do with weather. Is it the stars actually falling down? Is it the end of the world? And for a lot of these people, it's not very wondrous, but it's really frightening.
Well, today we know what meteors and comets and asteroids are, and we're not afraid of them. I asked Elizabeth Fernandez if there was something about her growing up years that enticed her to become an astronomer.
When I was young, I would climb up to my fort in the backyard, and I noticed Venus in the evening sky. It's called the evening star. It's close to our sun, so a lot of times we see it either in the early evening or the early morning, and it's a beautiful planet. It looks very, very bright. And growing up in the desert of New Mexico, I saw a lot of stars. It was very dark. I was able to see the Milky Way, which is something that a lot of people have never been able to see. As I grew a little bit older, I started reading about black holes and space-time and relativity and things like that. Where did the universe come from? These great questions that, from a spiritual perspective, sometimes we ask, like, where do we come from? Why are we here? But there's also like a scientific way we can look at that as well. And I found that really fascinating to be able to try to answer some of these puzzles. And the great thing is some of these puzzles haven't been answered yet. There's still a lot of mystery up in space. And I found that very alluring. It truly is a frontier and something that we'll never know everything about. And I just fell in love with that idea.
Well, even though we'll never know everything about it, the Geminid meteor shower is one thing that does show up like clockwork. This year, in 2024, the Geminids started appearing in our skies on November 19th and are now nearing their peak viewing time. However, if you're feeling like the last place you want to be is outside in the cold and the dark, Elizabeth Fernandez has some insight and inspiration for you.
A lot of people think, oh, it's cold, I don't want to go outside. But the fun thing is when I've gone to observe meteor showers in the winter, or observe any astronomical event in the winter, is actually some of my best memories of observing, because you get all bundled up. I have my thermos of hot cocoa. All my friends are gathered together. We're all trying to keep warm, huddling together in the darkness, hoping we'll see something. And then my friend says, oh, there's one. And I turn and it's gone. And then looking that way, oh, there's another one. And I turn and it's gone. So there's sometimes it's like the thrill of trying to find one when you don't know if it's going to be there or not. But then when you do see one and you're like, wow, that was amazing. It's a story you talk about later. In New Mexico, it was also an interesting situation because here we are in the middle of the desert, far, far away from city lights. It's in the middle of winter. It's cold. It's dark. And you hear coyotes howling in the distance. You don't know how close those coyotes are. It leads to a feeling of, you're not in your normal, warm, cozy situation. You're not in your living room, cuddled up, isolated from the world. You're part of the world. And what's more, you're part of space, too. Whenever I'm looking out at the stars, you come to this realization that you are part of something that's a lot bigger than this planet. And that's part of the amazing spirituality and wonder of astronomy, is that the knowledge that we are part of something bigger. And sometimes you need to get cold to experience that.
I like that. I like that a whole lot. I think there's something about our exposure to the cold that kind of matches our exposure to the cosmos.
Mm-hmm. In a way, you're sort of vulnerable out there. Just like when you look up at the stars and you realize that each of those points of light are, a sun. Many of them have planets around them. And then you get your telescope out, and you see galaxies, and they go on and on and on and on. You look at pictures that you see from the Hubble and the James Webb Space Telescope. It makes you feel small, but it's also an amazing thing because we are sort of like the consciousness of the cosmos. We're observing it. We're here to witness it being here. And that, in a way, makes us also very important to the cosmos as well.
So you've already hinted about something that's very important to me, which is my sense of my being when space is over my head and I'm looking out at that immensity of space. I can't look at that and not see it as divine. And a lot of people will just toss that word off, divine, like it's just a superlative. But I mean, when I say divine, I really mean divine. And I'm wondering from an astronomer like you if that's a comfortable connection for you to make.
For me, I'm not one to pigeonhole my life. Looking at the questions of where we come from and who we are as people, those questions can be answered both scientifically and spiritually. And I think both of those methods, while they are very different and they may give very different answers, they both give answers. And they both give answers that are valid in their own way. Because we're all trying to answer the same questions. Why are we here? What's our role in all of this?
So what's the best way to see the Geminids this year? Elizabeth Fernandez has some pointers.
This year, the most meteors you'll see is probably in the night of December 13th, but they will last all the way up to Christmas Eve, so you can keep on looking. If it's cloudy one night, you can go out again later. And the nice thing about this shower, too, is that a lot of times meteor showers, they only start in the middle of the night. This one, it'll probably peak around 2 a.m., but even if you go out after like 9 or 10, you'll still probably see things. And so if you have, small kids, or if you just aren't a late night person, you can go out, before you go to bed and see if you see anything. This year, unfortunately, we'll have a close to full moon, which will kind of block out a lot of the meteors, but we'll still be able to see probably around 50, 60 an hour. So that's given about 1 a minute. So that's still pretty good. So if you're going out to observe, I recommend being out for at least an hour. It sounds like a lot when it's cold, but it'll be worth it. You want at least some time for your eyes to adjust to the darkness. When you come outside from a really bright interior, you're not going to see the fainter meteors because your eyes aren't used to looking in the darkness yet. So you need some time to do that. So don't look at your cell phone. I know it's tempting, but don't do it. And you don't need any special equipment, just something to keep warm. But you don't need binoculars. You don't need a telescope. Just find a comfortable place to lie while you're looking up. I like looking at 45 degrees up, so not super close to the horizon, but not straight up either. That gives you a nice, good window of atmosphere. And then you can just start counting, start enjoying it however you will.
Elizabeth mentioned earlier that looking up into the heavens makes her feel part of something larger. We're in an incredibly tiny corner of the cosmos. But she would also encourage us to consider another lesson from astronomy as we're looking up, counting those Geminid meteors.
This planet is very, very special. It's very unique. We haven't found any other planets like this in the universe so far. And we're unsure if there are any planets like this. And so it's very precious. It's very amazing when you look at the diversity of life, both plant and animal and fungi and bacteria and microbes that live in your body. Like, there is life swarming everywhere on this planet, and that is a very rare thing. It seems to be a very rare thing in astronomy, and it's a very precious thing. And that's something we really have to hold on to and take good care of on this planet.
Some lovely thoughts to keep in mind as you venture out to catch the Geminids wherever on this beautiful globe you might reside. Elizabeth Fernandez is an astronomer and a science writer. She's written for Space.com, Sky and Telescope, and Nautilus, among other publications. Thanks to you for listening to this installment for Day 12 of our Advent observance in the form of an audio calendar from Constant Wonder. Producer for this episode was Tenery Taylor with help from Brian Barba and sound design by James Call. If you've missed any installments of Advent, you can find the entire series at byuradio.org, Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Tomorrow, our Advent series continues here on Constant Wonder, a conversation with Dr. Francis Collins, the former director of the NIH and the Human Genome Project. He's a brilliant scientist, but when he was younger, he was weighing a career as a rock musician, if the science thing didn't work out. He still has a broad interest in music, and tomorrow his perspective on Handel's Messiah Oratorio. I'm Marcus Smith. Constant Wonder is a production of BYU Radio.